Go. Welcome back to another episode of HEALn HelpDesk. And my name is Jay the Heal Chemist. I'm going to pass the mic when y'all grab it. Intro
Yes, I'm
yourself.
just Antoine, and I'm with Drulix, and we're excited about today's topic and excited to do another episode.
Oh,
In the
yes.
Family Ties series.
And I'm Joe the Road with HEALn Help as well, and I'm ready for this episode.
All right. So tonight we actually continue our Family Ties series with a conversation that often goes unspoken, the journey of the absent father. So we've been talking about the effects of the effects in the home where the father is absent, or the effects on the children when the father is absent. And when we talk about fatherless homes all the time, I'd say 97% of the time, we focus usually on the children, and rightfully so, because they are the innocent bystanders, so to speak. And, we will sometimes have conversations about mom and her journey, and I expect that we will do that here as well, to kind of go a little bit more in depth in what that looks like, because we have a lot of cliches with regards to that. But when we are talking about it, we never really talk about the dad. It's like he's absent from the family, but he's also absent from the conversation, right? So
Right.
what we want to know is what happens to the man who, for whatever reason, finds himself disconnected from his child's life. Some of those men carry guilt, they carry regret. Others battle mental health issues. Most, if not all, battle the legal system in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Financial hardships, personal demons that keep them from their children, and without fathers, some of them without fathers who raise them themselves, often find it hard to break that pattern. And we can't leave out the mamas that keep children from the dads. And I think that there are only specific reasons in which you should do that, and that is 100% because that man is a danger to that child in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But if that is not the case, keeping him from his children as a way of backlash to him because the relationship didn't work out or whatever the feelings are, horrible, horrible idea. And so tonight we're going to take a deep dive into what we call fatherhood, the unspoken. It really is the absent dad's journey. Now, none of us here are absent dads. I mean, it's pretty evident that I am not. But we can explore the emotional toll, the social stigma, the road to healing and reconnection. And we are also going to drop some gems with regards to agencies that are here in the Atlanta area. And I encourage you, if you're not in the Atlanta area, we really appreciate you tuning in. You can always DM us or email us or reach out to us, and we can get those resources for you, or you can do your nice Googles and do your own research. But we are definitely going to drop some information and links for you at the end of the podcast, so that you, if you are disconnected from your children and having a difficult time reconnecting, may be able to get some support behind you in that effort. So I guess that was all I had to say pretty much
Yeah.
about
Well,
that.
one of the things, I've dealt with a lot of prisoners with, fathers in prison, and I've done some day with dads, right?
Okay.
And where children try to reconnect with their fathers during a special day in prison and things like that. And so there is a lot of abandonment issues felt on both sides, because sometimes, of course, definitely the kid's going to feel the abandonment, but sometimes the dad does as well.
Right.
And it's just like you were saying, sometimes it's a cycle, right? They didn't have their dad in the home, and now they're not in the home and able to do for their children. And
Right.
so I think the education piece is so vital to stop this cycle, right?
Can you unpack that a little bit? What do you mean?
So if we can start with children understanding the importance of emotional intelligence
Mm,
and the effects of what's going on in the family and how that affects you and how to deal with that effectively, that awareness will help them and aid them in making better decisions when they're choosing their partners.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I think would be key, because, and I do think working from the bottom up is important also, but also from the top down. And what I mean by that is anytime there's a breakdown in the family and, the quote unquote court system is involved. In other words, you file for
Mhm.
support, and it doesn't necessarily just mean men being put on child support, but women as well. I think there needs to be some intervention with how to move forward. So if you're married and you get a divorce, before you can, at least in the state of Georgia, I don't know about other places, but before you can get a divorce, if you have children, you have to go through parenting classes. Like, there are things that you have to go through that
Right.
prepare you to co-parent your children. And I feel like those things need to be in place even if you're not married. If you have children together, um, and they are now doing DNA tests before they're enforcing, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases. Before it was just blanket. If you went down there and said this was the daddy got hit with the child support and you had to pay it. I believe now they're enforcing or incorporating paternity tests to ensure that that is the father. And then if that is the father, I think the next thing, right, before you go straight to, well, how much do you make, and here's how much you pay? Well, how can we do this in a way that is going to be less detrimental as much as possible to the child or to the children involved? And I think part of that is mapping out, and not that everybody's going to stick to it, but at least having some kind of mediation or intervention with regard to parenting and support for both parents, because both roles are going to change significantly. Now, he's separated from his children, and whether people want to believe it or not, men suffer depression. They suffer when they're separated from their children,
Yes.
much as the children do. And a lot of people don't believe that. They think if the mother is separated from the child, it's a travesty, and it is. But it is the same for the father. And if I could tell you how many men are dealing with mental health issues, depression, anxiety, and things that are causing them to resort to things that are not as healthy, and of course certainly won't get them back into their child's life, it would blow your mind. So I think helping and making sure that mental health services and support for the dad is available. And I know that that's a lot. I know that the government can't provide everything, but I feel like churches can. I feel like we can. I feel like we can do things here, workshops for dads. I know there are facilities and corporations and organizations that are offering support, but it's usually after the fact and after you've been estranged and after the damage has done. So I think the headed off at the path road really is at the point of filing for child support.
Yeah, your volume is kind of going in and out a
Oh
little bit.
no, I was
Uh,
hoping that it wasn't going to do that.
I
Uh,
don't know if Joe's
It was going in and
feedback
out
from
from.
you.
Say that again.
I don't know if we're getting feedback from your end or my end. I don't know what's causing it. So
Because
um,
it
maybe
was
we should
going.
mute as each other as we're talking. If, like, since we're having audio issues, if you two mute while I'm talking, and I'll, and so on and so forth, maybe we'll get a better. So you mute and I'm gonna talk, and let me know what you hear.
okay. Yes.
All right, going on mute right now.
Okay. I'm guessing you're both on mute. If I sound any better, give me a thumbs up. Okay. I find that sometimes even when I'm on FaceTime, like with my kids, if I don't mute my phone, their audio is choppy. I don't know why that is, but it is. But basically what I was saying, to clarify in the TLDR, too long didn't read, because I'm not going to say everything all over again. What I was saying is I feel like the school system is a great start to start from the bottom up with the children and work up. But I feel like it's a work from the top down effort that needs to happen also. And I think it needs to happen when that custodial parent files for support. If you're married, at least in the state of Georgia, you get a divorce, you go through parenting classes, there is some kind of a plan of action. There are support systems that you're informed about prior to, in an effort to minimize as much as possible the impact on the children. That does not happen if you're not married. If you go to, go to court, file a child support order, this person is not paying, we're not together, this is their child, they do a DNA test, prove that this is the child, I think the next step needs to be some sort of resource for both mom and dad, not just the money, but the more emotionally and mentally sound the parents are, together or not, the better for the child. So if you can go, if there can be something that can be offered to dad to help him with the struggle, the depression, and the anxiety, and what he's going to deal with, and the hopelessness. Just, I could not, as a mom, imagine me and my ex breaking up and somebody just deciding that my children are staying with them. It's their child as well, right? But my child is staying with them. How I would not be able to eat. I would not be able to sleep. It would be very hard for me to function. It would be almost impossible. And I can only imagine that there are dads that are having that experience after being separated from their children.
So I want to jump in here. So I I had my last marriage. I had an opportunity to raise a young man for 3 years, and he called me dad from day one. And it was very tough to that breakup, right, between um, me and the child, and the mother um, enforced that, right? So didn't want me to talk to him or have any dealings with him. And so I don't know what is being said on the other side because I'm absent now from him. Like it's like he don't he don't know how I feel unless I talk to him, right? And she's not letting that happen. And so all he can do now is assume how I feel or take her word for I don't love him anymore, or I don't want to be with him anymore. Why are you talking about him and this, that, and the other? And so I don't know what that conversation looks like. And so that's kind of hard on me, right? I practice letting it go when I feel any type of way about it. I see his picture comes up sometimes on my iPad and things like that, and it brings a smile on my face because we just had a great time together.
Mm-hmm.
However, dealing with things like that, we have to practice letting go, right? We have to practice dealing with those emotions. And it takes some, and especially if you already got stuff going on with you emotionally, and you may be dealing with some parent issues yourself, some daddy issues yourself,
Some
all that
mommy
stuff,
issues yourself.
or mama issues, right? All that plays a part in what's going on and how you're going to handle moving forward. So um, it's very important that, like you said, we deal with it from all angles, right? And
Yeah.
whenever we can step in and assist a family that's going through something like that, we definitely need to do that. And that's just, and I think that if we do, I think those are great points that you brought up, and times to step in and intervene. But I think it should be an ongoing thing, right?
Absolutely.
So as
Yeah.
Yes.
soon as you enroll your children into school, there should be some resources given to you, like, hey, you need some help parenting, blah blah blah. This, that, and the other. When you leave in the hospital with your baby, hey,
Look, I was about to say that.
Yeah.
it's we need that assistance. And there's a lot of children. I don't like to say a lot, but there are children being, shaken to death, right? Because the parents can't cope with the crying and things of that nature. So there still needs to be um, we just need help all around as people.
But can I say this? And if you guys, if I start going in and out, just press your mute. This way you won't have this problem. But as a mom, when you're leaving the hospital, you do have a plethora of information that you're given. Pamphlets, people come in and talk to you. There are books that you can get, what to expect when you're expecting. I don't know. I believe there's another book that's geared towards after you've had the baby, right? But what do men get other than to come to the hospital and pick you up? Is there, what happens when we're in the hospital, we're giving birth, we're, social workers talking to us, nurses are talking to us, grandma's talking to us, great grandma's talking to us. We're getting information on what we need to do as a woman and as a mother to provide for this child. Not everybody, but a lot of people, right? I don't want to claim to know everybody's family dynamic. What I'm saying is there is a lot of support, not saying that there couldn't be more and couldn't be better support for women, but there's a lot of support for women. My husband got nothing. Nobody talked to him. He did not have a meeting with anybody. He got no pamphlets. He might have got one. So my point is that you all are playing it by ear. And if you've already got a situation where the daddy's not in the home, who's talking to you about what you need to do as a father? Cool.
And I would also like to add, because both of y'all had great points. Also, we don't know when when a couple has a baby, or if they're not together, maybe boyfriend, girlfriend, and just trying to figure it out. When that baby does arrive at the hospital, right? I don't think there's any information, like we said, for them to know what to be expected when having a child, or what type of effects does having a child have on both the parents, because that's
mentally and emotionally, right?
because there's probably many times, I don't know facts or figures, but I'm just assuming that maybe after having the child, maybe the mother is like, "Hey, I don't want you in this room right now. Maybe I'm feeling some type of way." So then the father is confused themselves, like, "Whoa, what's going on? I thought we're good, but after having this kid, it's like now you don't even want to see me in the room or something." So what type of mental or emotion is going right there? Because the father's like, "Hey, I don't know."
Well, I think that's commonplace in conversation. In fact, I think people do tell the husbands, "Hey, when she get ready to have this baby, she ain't gonna want you in the room." I think there is some preparation with the negative of the whole situation that men can expect based on our hormones, right? And those things are real. And I do feel like sometimes women are prepared for postpartum depression and all kinds of different things that can not only happen to your body, but your mind after having a baby. But I wonder what kind of things happen to the man external from her.
Yes, that's the thing. Like,
internal to him, what happens to his mentality, his heart, his emotions? Where has he evolved to, right? Once that baby comes,
Even during the pregnancy, there are some changes that goes on, I hear, with the man as well. And so those I think that we definitely need to put some things in place where, and it has to be relatable, right? Because some of them are not just going to, because I got a baby, I'm gonna start reading now, and I never really picked up a book after schooling. You know what I'm saying? So
it's gotta be YouTube.
I think far more men. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. I think far more men become interested in being a dad. And I think just as much as women have ideals about what their family should look like once the children come, I think men have those also. And to have those dreams and fantasies as a man, and then that situation go left, and you are not only with the woman that you selected, or in some instances accidentally selected to be the mother of your child, you all are estranged, and for this abundance of reasons why you are no longer in your child's life. And in some instances, you're not even being allowed to talk to your child or see your child. Sometimes the the mom moves to a different location. And it's not always vindictive. Sometimes it really is. And I can attest to this. I've been divorced. I have children. I did not stand in the way of my husband or ex-husband co-parenting because he was a good father. We didn't do good. Our relationship didn't work, but it didn't make him a bad father. But I had to move because I am now a single parent and I have more than one child. And in the areas in which I could reside, especially in New York City, it would equal poverty all day, every day. I wanted to cut the um, probability of my children growing up in the environment that I grew up in. And I don't, whoever's listening, if you know anything about Southside Jamaica, Queens, 40 projects, you know that is one of the worst places in the world that you would want to raise your child. And that's where I came from. And I did not, as a parent, want to repeat that cycle or remain in the projects. There are huge statistics about that I won't go into, and how that is actually a generational thing. So you find the mama lived there, and then the daughter gets her own place, and she's got a place in the project, and it just continues. Not that I'm judging. I have nothing against that. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not talking down on that. I'm just saying that it's not what I wanted for my children, and I wanted to go someplace that I could ensure that didn't happen. And the only thought that I could think of was to leave New York City. So I moved to Greenville, South Carolina, where I must say that my decision, I feel 100%, and not just me, paid off because my kids were not exposed to the things that I was exposed to. But I want to say, before we get, I don't want to go too far down the road of like our personal stories. I want to kind of go back to what you were talking about, Antoine, when you were like, I had to let that go. Can you put words of action to what you actually do to let that go? Because, we say that all the time, man, you need to let that go, but nobody really knows what that means. Do you just pretend it didn't happen? Do you just ignore it? What do you do to let it go when you're feeling the emotions and the regret or the depression or the anxiety? And, not to mention the social and cultural pressures, right? And then the story that you tell yourself about the story that might be being told about you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
How do you do that?
It's a very challenging and daunting practice, but it is a practice, right? And so one of the things is recognizing your emotions, right? You have to be aware of what's going on with you, and so taking that time and getting with people that can help you, start monitoring your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, because that's a big key, because we are very emotional creatures and we're going to have emotions. We can't stop ourselves from having emotions, right? But we can control what we do with them, right? So if I feel it and I can say, you know what, I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail and start assuming what's going on, and I'm not going to apply that pressure, because a lot of times the pressure is applied, or more pressure is applied on the stories that we tell ourselves about what's going on. And so we have to be careful with that. And what I do, I practice, not being, I'm aware of the feelings that I have even talking about it. Do I get a knot in my stomach? Is my heart rate increasing? Am I starting to perspire? I'm watching my body, right, and making sure that because what I want to be able to do ultimately is talk about it and not really be emotionally tied to that conversation. Yes.
And do you think that will ever happen? Because and so here's the thing, right? I actually heard somebody say this. It was a guy, and he was telling a story, and it really upset me. I'm not even gonna hold you. He said he and his wife had broken up because he had done some things in their house that he shouldn't have done, and then he got caught. And when he did them, his children were in the house, not in the room, but they were in the house. And the wife really was over beyond angry.
Yes, done. Right.
So she moved away, took the children, and he was estranged from his children. And we got on the conversation of, so, he brought it up and we were like, well, when's the last time you seen him? And he was like, oh man, I don't know. It's been about 5 years, but I don't think about it no more. And I was like, you don't think about it anymore? And he was like, I mean, they all right. I know where they live. They with her. They good. And I was like, wow, because I don't think I could ever get to that place if it were me and my children were estranged from me. So I just wonder, was he really feeling that way? Like, did he really get to a place where he could disconnect from that child emotionally and really remove himself and not even see them as a part of him anymore? Or was he lying to himself?
I think that there's a blockage there where we put up a wall when we feel that we cannot go through that wall. So if I'm talking to the mom and I'm trying to have this conversation and I'm trying to see my kids and things are just getting heated and it's like, hey, I just have to give up. They may feel that they have to give up, and then they had to put a wall up to protect them. But when they put that wall up, it's still it's showing up in your life. If you're not dealing with it properly, it's showing up in other areas of your life.
Exactly.
Right?
So I was like, and not to go too far into my story, but we've talked about the fact that I was estranged from my dad. He left when I was 6. Never saw him again. Never heard from him again. No calls, no phone calls, no nothing. Birthday gifts, nothing. This man just disappeared. Right. Fast forward, I'm 40 something, 46, 47, 48, literally later in my life. And I find him on Facebook. And I just want to say, from deciding, and I'm not pressuring anybody else to take advantage of this if the opportunity presents itself. I'm just saying, for me, it was fulfilling. It answered a lot of questions that I had about myself over my lifetime. It gave me an opportunity to share with him my experience of my life after him having abandoned the family for whatever reason. And I don't want us to get in the habit of saying, oh, well, if he was separated and it was a problem between him and mom or whoever else, then he didn't abandon. He abandoned, right? For whatever reason. And I had an opportunity to explain to him that effect. And luckily for me, and I'm not saying everybody's dad will do this, he took 100% accountability. He didn't blame mom. He didn't blame his age. He didn't blame any of that. And what he shared with me to help me understand his thought process and his mind about what he felt like he would be able to do. So what I'm getting at is that not every man intentionally abandons his family when he leaves and he doesn't come back. There's a number of reasons why he does it, but in his mind, my dad thought at some point I can just have a relationship with them and I don't have to go through having an argument with mom or seeing her with someone else or whatever the case is, because a lot of the friction, we say, well, dads will say, well, I couldn't get along with the mom and we always arguing, but sometimes it is still the hurt feelings, the regret. So it takes 2 adults to tangle. And his thought process was, at some point, they'll be old enough that I can just have a relationship with them only. But he didn't really process that in the way that life would have allowed that to happen or not. And it didn't happen that way. I moved out and grew up a lot faster than he had anticipated. So I was gone by the time he would have had that type of relationship or availability to have that type of relationship. My brother, on the other hand, was so very angry that he was not interested and was never interested and never reconnected with dad. And he died. Excuse me. And I'm thankful. And I am so glad that I took the opportunity to say, okay, let me see who this person is now. And let me decide based on who this person is now, whether or not I want to have a relationship with him. And I just want to encourage those of you who might have an opportunity to have a relationship with your dad, barring, of course, knowing that he's toxic or he is detrimental to you and he's going to re-injure or add more injury. If you don't know and the opportunity for you to have that relationship presents itself, why not see who he is now and decide, can I have that relationship with him now? And for those whose children are still too young, I can just tell you that if you think that life will make a way for you to have that in your mind play out, it's unlikely. And you need to get yourself in contact with some support systems and services that can help reconnect you with your children in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Now,
It's Go ahead, Joe.
now I do have. I'm gonna probably jump back and forth. I got three things I want to bring up.
Okay.
Jumping back to the one with the hospital, yes, I do wish they will have, or they might, I might be wrong, more information for fathers to understand the emotions and stuff that they go through, because fathers do go through a lot that is sometimes is unsaid or unspoken, and they need that support group, because there probably be many times that during the whole process they're just sitting there, just even though they're like, yeah, I'm excited, thinking so much going on in their head, in their mind. Like it probably could be finances, then how are we going to do this? Do we need to get a bigger place, a house, or something? A lot of stuff goes in the mind. So having that support group and programs like HEALn HELP and Adrulix there, I think that would be really good. And now the second one, if I'm not mistaken, hopefully I didn't forget. But yes, I think Jatan, what you said was like the effects that could happen when it comes to the divorce process, right?
Yeah.
So you just gave your story, like how some fathers can possibly just maybe block and have that disconnect from their children. And I do think it's due to, like Antoine said, so they won't be hurt. Like it's like so much going on. So
Yeah.
here's it's not my story, but it's a story I heard. But we'll say that a father is had a divorce, right? And
Yeah.
they're in court trying to get basically parents' rights for their child, right? And we got to think of the financial stress, because that's money. You got to show up. You got to get lawyers. This is
Systemic barriers are one really, really hard thing to navigate with regards.
yes, and this is not like, oh, it's going to be solved in a month or two, because sometimes this is just outdrawn. So during the spending the money and the lawyers going to court, working, trying to balance your work life, trying to connect with your child, but as was said earlier, maybe there are boundaries that you cannot. Maybe the mother says, no, you can't, because someone else is there. There's a new person. Well, then, but that's still your child. So that's another toll right there
And it works in reverse
play.
also. Sometimes
Yes.
the dad is around and then he gets a new girlfriend and there's a
Mm-hmm.
problem. Why are you going over there? You want to go see her. You're not trying to see them kids. He finds himself caught in the middle. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
So it can go for both. But in this story, that was the case. And then the father, as I'm getting to the point, the father basically just spent so much money and everything. And they just like, it's not saying they have given up. It's more like, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And the father basically spent so much money that it's just a stalemate in the court. And only time, I think Antoine, you mentioned too, is like, in order to have contact with that child, it has to be, the child has no cell phone, it goes to the mother. So it's just whatever the mother in the story is telling the child. And so the father doesn't have contact with the child anymore. It's not that he doesn't want to, it's just he cannot get that contact. So now what's playing in is now that father's like, well, hopefully, and thinking that, like you were saying earlier, John, maybe when they reach a certain age that they're able to have that freedom, like, hey, they can go out and get their own cell phone and this and that, can reconnect without having all these barriers.
No, because you know what? Oftentimes, by the time that child is old enough to connect with the parent, with the dad, without mom's interference, there's been, not everybody, okay, so don't come for me, but come on now. There's a whole lot of rhetoric that goes into that child's ear about who that person is. And they already believe that they know who their dad is based on the story of who he was as the man to that woman. And that's not fair.
Right.
right? So
Yes.
even by the time, like my brother had no interest at all. I mean, he was very vulgar, in fact, with his response to me when I said, "Do you want to meet him? Do you want to talk to me?" F that mother, F her, blase. Like he was angry, but I personally feel like if my brother had had an opportunity, even if it was to say all of the angry things he said, to say
Hmm.
it to my father, I think he would have felt differently afterwards. I didn't express my anger, my resentment, my hurt in the way that my brother did. I was very matter of fact when I said it, but I wasn't trying to like cut his head off. My brother would have cut his head off, but I feel like he should have had the opportunity to do that because my brother's very angry.
Yeah.
He's
Right.
grown, he's in his
Right.
50s, and he's still very, very
That's
angry.
yeah, and
Now,
it's showing up in his life. And because if you're acting that way, um, in regards to that situation, that's showing up in your relationships with other people. And so
Yeah,
that's why it's so important to deal with stuff as it comes up and be aware of things. I wanted to mention, with our fathers paying child support, right?
right.
And mama splurging on herself versus really giving things to the children, and then want dad to continue to pour into the household or to pour into the child, and they feel like that's enough. When is enough?
I gotta object there because I've been
It-
that
Well,
woman. I'm
there's
just gonna
nothing.
tell
Wait, hold
you, you
on.
can't splurge unless your man
No,
is a millionaire. You cannot splurge on $700 a month.
no. But you don't
So
know. So
I
that's
don't like the rhetoric. I don't like the rhetoric splurge because I'm gonna tell you something. What happens is that men feel like, and I'm gonna let you talk. I'm sorry, but it just I don't want to. I want us to change the dialogue, right?
Mhm.
Because what happens is that, and let me preface it by saying this: by no means am I saying there are not women who are not using the support appropriately. I am not saying that there are women who do not use the child support appropriately. There are women who do that, but we have to stop saying things like splurge because I have been the custodial parent and I have had an ex that said, "Oh, well, you got your nails done." I work for a living. And let me just tell you, when your check comes, because sometimes it comes on the first, sometimes it doesn't, there are things that my children need, that your children need, that I have to provide. So that may mean that I'm taking money away from the things that I need to do in the way of self-care, in the way of entertainment to provide, and maybe I'm taking what you do send to recoup, to do my hair, to get my nails done, but it does not mean that your child is not being taken care of. So
and
we have
I'm
to make a different, we have to differentiate that.
Yes, we definitely do. And so, but I'm just saying there are cases because every dynamic is different, right? The dynamics of households are different. So sometimes they could
Uh-huh.
be living with their parents. The mom is living with their parents, and they're supporting. And so there could be a whole lot of dynamics. But I was
Mm-hmm.
just saying, in some cases, you find that the mother is not putting into the child what needs to happen for the
I
child
like that better than
music.
spurging because I'm just telling you, you
But
can't
I mean, you
splurge
can,
on and
yeah,
off.
we can go
You
different
got
type of
kids.
words, but I'm just saying,
But okay,
but
let me just ask you
the
this:
options.
have you been a single parent before?
No, I haven't.
So there are so many, and I'm not saying that you can't possibly understand. Please don't hear me say that. What I'm saying is that there are so many nuances that people who are outside guessing what it is like, what that experience is like, saying, "Oh, well, you know, you don't need money." If I could tell you how much you need money for, and how often the support does not even cover what the children need.
And I get that, and
So I'm
I
just
get
saying,
that. But
you got to be
I
careful
I
how
wanted
we talk
to,
about it.
but still, I didn't finish because you cut in there,
Okay,
and
my bad. You know, I'm a black woman. We do that.
so yeah, you didn't let me finish. So because I do not advocate for. I think that there should be. because first of all, a lot of times we don't know how to handle money. And so we
Oh,
don't know how to
we
properly
didn't learn that.
and things of that nature. So if there's an influx coming in, and it depends on what kind of occupation that the father has, right? And all there's so many factors that play in it. One of the things that I would do, I'm not in the situation, but if I had to do that and I had the extra money, I would definitely put it into the child, because sometimes, like you said, that's just covering the necessities, or helping, not even covering, but helping with the necessities. And you need to go above and beyond and really, help out with that child, because some of these children are in sports and they need this, they need that, and school.
Yeah.
So I'm not advocating for either one. Well, I'm advocating for the child, right? And so that's where I am. I don't want the mom to abuse the funds that's coming in, and they could use it better. And I don't want the dad to feel that just because I'm paying child support, that's going to cover everything that my child needs.
And that's the case a lot, even up to and including sometimes the relationship. And I'm just being totally straight up with you. There are some men who feel like, well, I pay child support. What you need me to babysit the kids for? There are some men who don't want to take their kids away from the household that they live in because they are trying to prevent the mother from doing anything. You probably going to see somebody else. So there's so many toxic dynamics that exist in that setup, right?
Yes.
The other thing is you, or the three of us, right? No, none of us have little children at home right now.
Nope.
Let's talk about how difficult it is to navigate financially with no children in the house. Add some children to that.
It's tough. It is
Add
tough.
children to that. Add more than one child to that, and tell me how much more difficult your life would be from a financial standpoint.
And then especially if the mother of your child has um, your child has other siblings, but
Mhm.
not your biological kids. And then you have to support. It's like you feel that you're supporting them as well, and it's there's a lot of dynamics. And when if they're taking a chunk out of your check and you're like, oh, I can barely meet my needs, because of that. So there's a whole lot. And so we just need support. And
All the way around.
all the way around. Yes,
All
all
the
the
way
way
around.
around. And that's one of the things that Drulix is going to advocate for, is the
Same here.
welfare of the children, and
And the
making sure,
parents.
and the parents,
Yeah.
and making sure that people are well taken care of, but not just from a financial standpoint, but a mental standpoint, where they are learning how to deal with their emotions. They're learning how to handle finances and things like that. So they're getting proper education, and it's kind of tied into, like, hey, if we're giving you this, because it's the platform we're creating is learn to earn. So
Uh-huh.
you can earn some money, some extra money for your household, but you got to learn who you are
Mhm.
to be able to do that,
To
right?
be able to qualify, right?
Yes. And so that's a lot of things that we're doing
That's awesome. That is awesome. So,
And also,
go
I
ahead.
want to bounce back because that was a good topic for that was brought up. But I want to bounce back to the story right there. So even though we're on the fathers talk, or the topic about fathers, what would a father or mother do in the scenario that they feel like they have just they done what they could do, they feel like that, and they tired from it, and just like they just felt like they kind of gave up. What could they possibly do in that type of scenario? Or
I saw on the news maybe a month or two ago. I want to say it was New York, but they implemented this thing where if you were overwhelmed as a parent and you felt like you couldn't do it anymore, you could drop your kids off at like a firehouse or emergency, can I tell you that people were dropping their children off in droves? Look it up. I didn't make it up. Google it. I may not have these stats, you know what I'm saying? It may have been Connecticut, it may have been New Jersey, but it was definitely somewhere up north. I believe it was New York City, and it was very recent. People are overwhelmed, people are stressed. And what I want us to understand is, because we spend a lot of time going, well, the mamas get the money and they don't do the right thing. And then we go, well, the daddies is deadbeats and they don't do nothing anyway. And, I really want us to get away from the stereotypical conversations that we're having. There's a lot of exploitation of this particular topic on social media, because people get on their soapboxes and they want to argue. And if I could tell you how many women I know that are breaking their necks to take care of their children, and they have their share of difficulties with their ex-husband or ex-boyfriend or the children's father paying consistently and paying on time. There are also women that I know that get the child support money and they got to go buy the bottle, and they at the club and they balling out of control and so on and so forth. Mama babysitting the kids. There are instances in which, if you, as the dad, and this is part of what we want to help get away from, if you are a father who has a scenario like that, your child's mama has the baby, she's not being a mother. Her mama, the grandmama, is taking care of the child. You're sending child support, and she's out in the street doing whatever. The fight for that is to go to court, right? And to go fight for custody, be able to prove these things. The child is with the grandmother. Hold on. The child is with the grandmother. Mama's at the club every weekend, and so on and so forth, right? Very difficult situation to prove. But it's even more difficult when you, the male, has another family, or you're in another situation to say, well, I'm going to go fight for my children. At the end of the day, both, the mom is not doing what she should do. The men can't, and really the men that I've spoken to know that the court is not an advocate for them. It's not like they can go to court and say, here's what's happening, I need your support. Every now and again, you might find a judge that's willing to listen and take action, but very much so, the courts are slanted in the wrong direction, and it's unfortunate. I understand that a lot of reason to that is, back in the day, there was a lot of, I'm not going to take care of my child. And the court system said, oh, okay, so all of these women are coming to us, they're getting this, they're getting that. We're going to make it so now you getting that, you can't have a man. They can't be in the home, else we're going to cut your benefits off. When they realized that wasn't really stopping the situation, they changed it. They now you can have a man and get child support and get welfare and get Medicaid and get food stamps. They changed it, but now guess who they've decided to hold 100% responsible financially is the men. And unfortunately, those who don't deserve that treatment are caught in that broad net. Really, we need child support reform. That's a whole nother show, and that's a lot of advocacy and work that would have to go into that. But we're in a cycle where if we spend our time and spend our wheels pointing fingers at who's not doing what right, we're going to stay exactly where we are, because this is what we've been doing. Right. It's like the relationship war that we're in with one another. Men are suffering more than women. Women are suffering more. Like, the more we keep making each other the enemy, the more we are going to stay at war. And Jay-Z said it best, no one wins when the family feuds. Yeah. So what can we do? And that's what Adrulix and that's what Heal and Help is here to do. We are here to change the dynamic. We are here to change the conversation. We are here to provide support in other ways that are going to help with reform outside of the court, so we can take reform to the courts, if that makes sense.
It does. And my other question is, for both of you, is and myself, because I gotta look it up. What would also, like, again, I want to talk about the mother or the father in a situation that they are unable to, or they're unable to contact their children. And what if they do, like I brought up before, is they think, well, when they get older, what steps could they take instead of just assuming when they get older, they'll reach out to me? What do you think steps a parent should take in that situation?
Well, I have a list of national organizations. I'll let you go, but at the end of the podcast and in the description, we are going to list these organizations that can definitely help, like Fathers Incorporated, National Fathers Initiative, Fathers Help Network, Parents Helping Parents. So before now and before the conversation happened, they didn't have an option to deal, to be honest with you. They just had to eat it and detach themselves as much as they possibly could. Am I correct, Antoine, in saying that?
Yeah, I think that has been the case in some, some instances where they didn't have other solutions. One suggestion that I would give, if there's a third party that is trusted to be that mediator, so to speak, and make sure that things are being communicated correctly with the kids. If it's mu- the mothers of the children's mother or
Or the
grandfather,
father, yeah.
right? And they are sensible where they can talk. The dad can talk to them and relay that message, and relay money and say, hey, I want to give them something for their birthday. Can you make sure that they get this? And and so bringing that third party in that is trusted, that the mother also trusts, that can help guide that situation, because it's just, it's so, there's so many dynamics, so it's hard to really, pinpoint one thing. But if you can put a third party in there, that can also be a great help.
And I do want to say this, and I know the women are going to come for me, but I have sons, right? And I want to make sure that at the end of the day, the kids are who benefit. So even if you're bringing in a third party, men, listen closely. If you're bringing in a third party who can negotiate and get you to the point where you can see your child and you can have a relationship, right? Any money that is passed to the child, if it is your intention of it being support, don't give it to the mother, don't give it to the grandmother. Take it to the court and place it on that case. Because anything you do outside of that case and outside of that court, if there's one that exists. Now, if you don't have a court case, you don't have a child support order in place, what y'all do and what y'all arrange is what y'all arrange. Just understand that if you have an active child support case in a court, and there's an amount of money that has already been determined that you pay, and you do anything outside of that order, it will not be acknowledged by the courts. It will be seen as a gift. I don't care if it matches to the dollar what you would have paid in child support. So if you are looking to give money to just get the kids ice cream, or get them a bike, or do something outside of what you would consider the child support payment, that's different. But if you are saying, well, my ex-mother-in-law is gonna bring the kids to me, and I'm gonna give her, I gotta pay $500 a month. I'm gonna go ahead and give her the $500 and let her buy the kids this and buy the kids that.
Yeah, that's a
Don't
great
do
point.
it.
That's a great point. Yeah, definitely keep the money flowing. If you have a court case, keep the money flowing through the courts, even if you want to go extra and above, unless you just have it that way. And make sure that your obligation is being met. From
Because you don't want that. You
case.
don't want that. That is a rabbit hole that is almost impossible to get out of. It's like a title loan. You're gonna be stuck in that thing. Like, just whatever it is you pay, make sure you pay, make sure you save your receipts. Don't rely on the courts to keep up with your payments that you've actually made to the courts. It's kind of like a parking ticket. You ever paid a parking ticket and then they send you something or suspend your license talking about you didn't pay it? And you did pay it?
Yes.
Same scenario. If you're making payments through the courts, keep your receipts, keep up with your documentation, so that if there's a mishap and things happen in the courts, you can prove that you paid that money. Because if you can't prove it, you didn't pay it. It does not exist.
Yeah, this is a very inexhaustible topic,
Yes, it is.
we really, because there are so many dynamics that come into play. One of the things is we all really need to learn how to, handle our emotions, because a
Hmm.
lot of times we tell ourselves stories and the stories aren't true. We don't have all the facts. There could be some other things on there. Sometimes we do see patterns, and we need to avoid those patterns that we're seeing. And sometimes we tell our stories and we fulfill the patterns that we want to see. So,
Yes.
oh yeah, that's why he's saying that, because, and I was one of the top ones. If someone said something to me and I said, oh, it only can mean this because
Right.
you said it this way, and it could be so further from the truth. But it's the stories that we make up in our head, and then if we're acting off those stories, then it's truth to us, and then we're missing out. People are getting hurt in the process, and so we just have to be better people ourselves. One of my slogans is change people, change the world, right? We got
Hmm.
to
Mhm.
change ourselves
Yeah.
and do that self work, and it's hard, but it pays off in great dividends.
Part of the issue too is that somehow we feel like either because our money has gone to that household or our child has gone to this household, either or, we now have the ability to govern what happens under that roof, right? So if the woman is sending her child to the dad, she now feel like she has the right to govern what happens under that roof, who can come and go, who's there. I have a right to every bit of information with regard to that roof, that household, simply because my child is there. And sometimes men feel the same in regard with regard. I'm paying child support. My kid is in there. I need to know what's going on. We have to get away from deciding how the other parents and or handles the finances. If you have a concern
Mhm.
about how the finances are handled, you can call her into court, and a lot of men are terrified to do that because they feel like, and I can't say that it's never happened, but they feel like, oh, if I do that, this could backfire on me.
Yeah.
But part of keeping it from backfiring on you is trying to learn how to leverage the court in your favor, which means that instead of, and this is so hard because the courts have done men, especially and particularly men of color, so bad that it's like, how can I even trust you to help me or look out for me, right? And to do
No,
what's
I
correct,
my
what's
my
right.
last divorce that I was going through, I stood in front of the judge, and the judge just lit into me
Mm.
for no apparent reason. He was like, Mr. Turner, you're not going to come in here and sweet talk this court. I was like, Your Honor, I'm not trying to. I know you're not, because blah blah. I said, oh, he
Oof.
just like went into me, and I was like, oh, well, I'm not about to deal with this lord, this judge any longer. I'm gonna, whatever she wants, we're gonna go ahead and settle that. I'm gonna put down what I want out of the relationship, and then let that be bygones, because I'm not gonna deal with this judge. If I gotta deal with this judge, it ain't gonna go good for me, because I ain't three
It's
Yep.
not
words,
gonna
and
go
he
good for
already
you because
has an
you're the
opinion
one.
of who I am, and
But I
he don't
think
know
part
anything
of it,
about me.
I think part of it too would be to, so we are a culture of information, right? We learn about credit because we want to improve our credit score. We learn about real estate. Can I tell you how many people learn about real estate? Because if I hear one more person say I'm about to be a real estate investor, we will watch, listen, learn when it comes to the things that we want. I want to encourage us, not just men, but women too, because I just want you to know, despite what you believe and despite how disparative it is against Black men with regard to the child support court, the court is not the friend of the Black woman either. It's not our friend either. It's not the friend of a Black child either. So the more we know about the laws, the more we know about the things that we can call into question and how to do it without necessarily always having a lawyer, because we'll be like, well, I can't afford an attorney, but you can afford to go say, let me learn as much as I can about family court. Let me learn as much as I can about child support law in the state that I live in. Let me find out that if this situation is like this, what can I do? What other cases have there been that's been similar to mine that have been successful? And that's a lot, but I'm asking you to invest in the one thing that is invaluable, and that is your child.
And that is so good. Um, but I'm thinking about the mother that has to work a couple of jobs already.
Okay, she can work a couple of jobs, but guess what? If she want to know how to install that wig, God dang it, she don't learn how to install that wig.
Right.
She don't know where there's got to be. No, I don't mean to be stereotypical. Let me take that
Yeah.
back. I recant my. I'm just being.
So, but it's difficult, and we just have to put resources that's made available for situations, and we just have to be more present, right? We have to have
We have to
organizations
be
like,
more aggressive. We got
yeah,
GPT. We got
intentional,
so many things that can give us
intentional.
answers now that really won't take as much time as we want. You can
Yes,
literally say to Chat GPT for free, "Hey, I'm in this legal situation. Here's how it's faring for me in my state. I have no idea what to do. Can you tell me who I can
Yes.
contact? What agencies I can contact? Tell me something about the law. What do I need to know?" And you'll find out at least some more information than what you have. We can't keep
right.
going with all that we have, and we can't keep using the rhetoric that keeps us separated and keeps our children caught in the crossfire. Hey, hey, hey.
Yes, yes. You're so right. The information is here. The technology is
Mm-hmm.
here. We need to take advantage of it. And to your point that we find time for the things that's important to us, and this definitely should be important to us. But we
Yes.
also should have more organizations like ours that's readily available to answer questions, to walk side by side with you, and give you that support. So
That's great.
let's we're here. I've enjoyed this episode. We're gonna put those resources in the link
Mhm.
in the description. Please like, subscribe, share if you
Share.
found that this was
Yes.
valuable to you, and you know somebody that might want to hear this information. We definitely have to run this back again. It may not
Yes.
be
Oh, we
right
do.
back, but there's a lot to still unpack, and we want to hear your questions. If you have a point of view or questions that you want to ask, please let us know, and we'll try to address those as well.
Oh yeah, because we definitely got to run this topic back because we still have to discuss what with a father being in the father's home, being a father themselves, the confidence issues with that, and also the relationship challenges, and also maybe how does that father identify themselves after growing up in a father's home themselves, and now they have a child. He has a child too. It's like, oh, how is that relationship gonna be? So we definitely got to run this back. But yes, again, like, subscribe, comment. We want to hear about it, y'all.
Definitely. I so appreciate y'all. And, I hope that we captured at least some of the often overlooked struggles of fathers who are absent, the opinions of either or, and some of the resources that we can use to kind of start to change the trajectory of what we're experiencing as families. I got a hard stop right now at 9:15. I appreciate you guys.
All
Love you
right.
both.
All
Love
right.
y'all.
Bye. Talk soon.
No problem. See y'all later.